Morning live Q&A. Let's jump right into it. First question. Is it a good time to purchase an investment property? Oh, yeah, great question. I think right now in the Toronto real estate market, it really depends. Obviously, it always depends. But I would say typically right now, if you're purchasing at today's pricing and you're going to rent it out, you will probably be at a negative cash flow, at least depending on how much down payment that you have, of course. The more down payment, you can always make those numbers work from a cash flow perspective. But if you want to go traditional 20% down on investment property, you're probably going to be cash flow negative. However, if you're buying in the city of Toronto and you intend to hold that property, what we've been seeing is on the resale side of things, prices are somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200 a square foot on average. And the new pre-construction, all the condos that are going up are somewhere between 1,600 to 1,800 on average. There are a couple properties that are selling for more than that, but there are some that are selling for less as well. So I would say if you're looking at it from an appreciation standpoint, you intend to purchase that property and keep it for a long time, 5 or 10 years, the equity side of it should outweigh what your what will you be cash flow negative on a month to month basis. Just the way that you have to look at it to think about it. You can also look to purchase things outside the city of Toronto. Maybe you purchase a home or a condo in a city like Hamilton that has a lot of infrastructure on the way and looking that is still getting quite good rent in that city, or maybe like a city like Ottawa, for example. I have personally have rental properties in Ottawa that generate about the same amount of rent as we're seeing here in Toronto, but the purchase prices are almost half, to be honest with you. So might give you a little more opportunity for cash flow. That being said, the upside of those condos, and I've had them for about 7 years now, the upside in that condo is not even nearly as close as what a property in Toronto would have done in that same amount of time. So yes, cash flow, but on the upside, on the equity side, Toronto, I mean, I always say something I've been saying lately, I feel like, is Toronto's undefeated when it comes to real estate market. It is just in a market that, always has demand. And I think we're going to see the same thing as we move along in the future, especially with immigration and things like that. People typically want to move and live in the core, which is also driving rent prices up. The rental market is still super active, and we're seeing more and more demand when it comes to condos, even with prices decreasing from where they were last year at the peak. But we're starting to see more and more properties get multiple bids, double digit multiple bids. I've been seeing more and more, even on condos in the city, if they look pretty amazing and they're in a great location, great building, all that stuff. So if you're in the market or thinking about purchasing an investment property, make sure you do the numbers, make sure you have a plan on all things. So, where you're going to get your financing, what it's going to cost you per month, what you can rent it out for per month, and what is the location like, what is the area like, and does it have opportunity to grow in the future? Is it in the downtown core, things like that? Or you can look outside the city if you want to find something a little bit cheaper, but you might not have the same upside as the city of Toronto. That's totally dependent on you. Also happy to have that chat anytime. We can look at different numbers and different things like that. Next question. Have we hit the bottom? Have we hit the bottom? Honestly, I mean, things have definitely been moving up since January. We're up about 5 to 7% since the month of January here in the Toronto downtown proper. And I've seen or been tracking the numbers for April, and we're also up from March to April. Now, I do think we're going to be bridging the gap between April 2023 and about May of 2022. So that gap of like where that peak was and where things are at now is getting tighter and tighter by the month. I don't know how things are going to progress through the summer, but I would anticipate that we're probably going to continue going up through spring, especially if the weather at some point starts to get better. And if the Leafs keep playing in playoffs, of course, that also helps the city. It helps Toronto real estate. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, if things keep progressing the way they're progressing, I'm not sure how much higher they'll go if we're going to hit that peak pricing as a whole. But that being said, prices have been creeping up in April, and And as we get into May, hopefully we get more inventory, and that should level things off a little bit. But until we get more inventory in the areas that need them the most, we will see prices continue to increase. Simple, basic supply and demand. As far as the bottom goes, I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but what I've been seeing is that November, December, now we're 4 or 5 months away from that, seems to have been where things kind of leveled off from a baseline price point, and we'll see how things progress as we move forward. Next question: what is the cheapest way to make my property look better? For sure, paint. I would say painting. It is expensive to hire a painter if you have the patience for it and you like doing it. Painting is personally my number one cheapest way to make your property look better. It's amazing what a coat of paint can do to help your property just look fresh. Obviously, you know, if you have to declutter, things like that. But if you're going to declutter and you're going to paint the walls and give it a fresh look and keep it pretty, I mean, depending on what kind of paint color you decide, but like something, if you want to paint your room white, it definitely brightens it up, but not white's not for everybody, of course. But if even more of a neutral designer color, whatever like that, paint is the number one cheapest way, in my opinion, to really improve a space. It's something you could do on your own, and it's something that does require patience and time, of course. But throw on a podcast and just go to town for a day. And but yeah, definitely, I would say paint is the cheapest way to improve the look of your property. Even in a bathroom, for example, if you wanted to just change out a vanity, that could also go a long way. Different decor things, but all that stuff costs a lot more money. Like just paint will go a long way in your property, I promise. That's your live Q&A. If you ever have any questions, just fire my way, either Instagram, YouTube, whatever it is, Facebook, and happy to answer them on next week's Q&A. Have a great week.